Let's start off with Dangerous Doorways are for Elfling Princes by H.M. Forrest, just because she rocks. Next, here come the girls, because they are awesome readers. Part 1, Colliding Lands.
Forbidden fruit. He dried out leaves. Well, the dried out leaves of the corn stalks whispered and crackled together, waving gently as a wind drifted through them. Twilight was fast approaching, causing the lengthening shadows to dance and sway ominously as a lone figure crept slowly through the cornfield. A youth's wistful voice calling out fearfully, "Maureen, where are you?" Pushing aside rows of stalks that were bigger than him. The small boy sighed in relief to see his sister sitting curled up into one. The ground small had lost her delicate maiden slippers not long after they had entered the cornfield, and the rocks in the ground were hurting her tiny feet. The boy had silently offered her the use of his own sturdy boots, but she had refused, insisting that he needed them more in order to find the way out of this terrifying maze. The boy dropped his knees beside her, only a little older than her. He had already assumed the protective role of Big Brother through both were so small that they had not yet learned to read. Maureen lifted accusing blue eyes filled with unshed tears. "You promised and drank the acute," she said, barely above a whisper. "You said This would be a fun adventure. Now we're lost, and I do not think we can even hear the dinner bell from here. A tear rolled down one fair cheek. I'm hungry, and frightened, she sobbed. I wish to go home. Henrik wrapped his arms around his sister, trying to hide his own fright. It has seemed like such a good idea at the time. The cornfield was was
Do you need help? Rumored
to be visited by spirits. The perfect setting for a scary adventure to both to pass about to the other children in their village. They were lost now, though, and he knew not what to do. They sat there for a moment, both talking comfort for the others, when a loud noise started to drone overhead, growing steadily closer. Something is coming. Henrik cried softly. We must not stay here. Mary peered up though the large straw of corn and cried out at the sign of a large winged creature swinging upon the air. A dragon had surely came to slay them. They were running, then the boy pulled his sister along, but by the hand, and they tried to outdistance the creature and looked up to see the growing monster swap down over them and steadily drop to the ground, pulling Mary down beside him and tried to cover her as best he could. A light powered down, dropped down upon them as the dragon passed by, shining their clothes and burning their
Singeing their clothes.
singeing their clothes and burying their fairy skin in places. Both the children were screaming now in fear and pain. He is breathing fire on us. Mary Mary
Can you spell it?
this
Yeah, spell the word.
Shrieked.
Shrieked.
Shrieked as she tried to brush the burning gray ash like powder off her pericle. And Rick suddenly grabbed her to him. His small hands covered her mouth. Her eyes winded and frightened after the dragon had came back. Then she heard it, whispers of voices were passing through the cornfield, not far from where they lay hiding the stalk. They must have heard the children scream. The voices were in a language she had never heard before. She turned wild eyes to meet the symbol.
You have to spell it because I can't see through it.
Simillar.
Similar.
Similar blue ones of her brothers. Where these spirits.
And I fall down too.
When they get a chance to see them. The talking grew louder then, and the leaves of the cornstalk began to swing and rustle. Angry.
Angular.
Angular.
Wait a minute. Let me see that.
Right here.
Angrily. Blah.
Angrily as whatever it was passing close by. The
Growling.
growling voices grated against her ear, and she suddenly knew she did not want to see them, no matter whether they were spirits or living beings. They waited only a moment for the voice to grow distant before they scrambled. Scrambled.
Scrambled.
They scrambled to their feet and beginning to run swiftly in the options destination.
Mm-hmm.
They would even reach in somewhere. Finally, after what seems to be hours to the wearing kids, they broke through the never-ending
Husk.
husk of corn
Husks. Yeah, husks of corn. They're in a cornfield.
to the edge of the cornfield, and Anric nearly cried in relief. A moment to look back. Pausing a moment to look back, he could still hear the sounds of the creatures of spirits moving wrong there, though. The cornfield in their direction. He looked up at the sky to see the dragon monster still swinging through the air, but farther away now. Mary stilled Clung.
Clung. CLU. Okay, where was it?
It was.
Oh, clung. I cannot see words right now in my brain.
Clung to and wrist. Hand as he turned back to the open field and gazed at the lone forest in the distance. It is only a short way to the forest. I think we can make it if we run fast. He took his sister privately and she nodded. She was so tired and fearless now. She only wished to be home. He held his hand tightly and Plunged.
Plunged.
Plunged into the open area at a fast pace. And heard suddenly screaming and shouting for the creature, and her heart snapped, knowing they had been seen. He pushed himself to run even faster, pulling his sister along almost hardest as stumble too little and tired to run that fast. Do I go on?
No.
Andrek could hear the sounds of the creatures breaking through the end of the cornfield, and gave an extra burst of speed. Managing to make it to the edge of the forest, he dragged his sister through the giant trees, looping in and out and around in every way he could think of in an attempt to lose the following creatures. The young boy was growing exhausted himself, not much older than Marin, and certainly not old enough for this. Yes, but he did not know how to find his home again. He thought that they were going in the general direction, but he did not know for sure. He could only keep running and running and running. His heart squeezing in symphony as Marin began to cry softly and whisper in complete exhaustion and fear. Hearing closer sounds of branches cracking beneath them, along with more guttural yells and cries, he put on one last burst of speed and plunged deep into the heart of the forest, Marin still being pulled along behind him, only to be abruptly stopped by a gnarled tree looming in front of them. Its stretching limbs and fingers devoid of any foliage, and Andric wished he had taken a closer look at his surroundings when they had first left their home for their adventure. But he had been too excited, too eager to show off for his little sister. It felt different to him than the rest of the forest, but it might just be his wishful thinking. He desired to be home and safe and away from evil dragons and strange noisy spirit creatures. Strange, barely perceivable symbols were engraved into the trunk of the tree, appearing to outline the shape of a door. These symbols looked vaguely familiar to the children, but the boy could not recall where he had seen them before. Andric and reached out a shaky hand to touch one of the symbols just as the trunk began to open up to an ominous darkness beyond. He turned to his sister to tell her to run, but large branches curled out around with a crackling groan to shove them both into the black abyss.
Okay. Too frightened to even scream, the two children tumbled and slid down a long dark passage to land with a hard plop onto a platform of green grass. Stunned, they looked around them in the deepening night, seeing the beginning of another black passage dropping off behind them. A slight sound drifted in the air. They turned to see a tall, armor and weapon-clad figure approaching slowly from the dark shadows in front of them, a long sword in hand. They must surely be a guardian of the underworld, sent to flay them alive for their transgressions. The children clung to each other, Marin whimpering in fright, her fair little face smudged with dirt and streaked with dried tears. Fierce glowing eyes appeared through the lingering shadows of as the large figure drew closer. Andric knew he must somehow protect his sister. Perhaps the drop off behind them. The figure stepped closer, a ray of moonlight illuminating part of its face. Andric's eyes opened wide as he grabbed his sister close. They stayed there for a moment, trembling, staring in shock. Then they both made a long leap, straight in the arms of the figure, now kneeling on his knees in front of them. As strong arms enclosed around him, the two children began to sob hysterically, clinging with sheer desperation to the tall figure. "Hush, children," the figure said, long hair shifting to show a delicately pointed air as warm and familiar hands rubbed the soothing circles on the back of both children. "You are safe now, my little elflings. Father has you now. I told you not to go to the cornfield. The men have evil machines that make noise in the air and sprinkle powder on the crops to make the corn sick. You must never go there again. Promise me, please." And the figure, their father, the great elfin king, pulled back and looked at them with all the honesty of too frightened of very small children. They adamantly promised to never visit the scary cornfield with the monstrous dragon machines. The end.